entertainment sector has traditionally been looked at as a very male-dominated sector. It's from the time that I joined the industry about 2 decades ago, it has definitely changed a lot. In the past, you would see a lot of actresses, you would see women coming, very few of them, like Renu Saluja, who would be an editor, or Rajay Patil, who would be a filmmaker, but never really did they see much popularity with the mainstream cinema. However, I've noticed, and it's a great change that we've seen in the last 2 decades, how women are becoming more and more appreciated for their work in the film industry, in the entertainment world. You know, various filmmakers like Farah Khan, who really did break that barrier as such, or this glass ceiling, if you may call it, where from being a choreographer, she directed films, and the films were mainstream films. They were not stereotypically what was expected from her, from society, that they were films about women, or topics that only women could handle. She did do a lot of different kind of content, and I remember her sharing a story where she said how she took her babies to the set. So I think that women like her, who are married with children, are really inspiring, and they inspired quite a few generations of filmmakers who followed through. And of course, we have Meghna Gulzar and Zoya Akhtar, who really have broken all those kind of stereotypes that came with what kind of films women should make and whether women should be in the film industry or not. I feel like even in terms of other technical programs or fields like editing, cinematography, producing, we ourselves in the last 13 years of running Whistling Woods International, which is a film and media and creative arts institute, we've seen how many girls have started enrolling for these courses. We've seen how well they're doing in the industry. A lot of the women alumni of our institute are actually breaking records and doing new things. As an example, we have a wonderful producing student, Aditi Anand, who signed the first Indo-French co-production treaty. So that was a first, and her international film released just last year. Aarti Kadav, who's a filmmaking alumni, and she's made a sci-fi film called Cargo, which is being really appreciated in all kinds of film festivals, and she's been getting emails from international film festivals where they've said that we've never actually had an Indian woman filmmaker's film chosen for our festival, and that to a sci-fi where very few women in the world are known to kind of make films on sci-fi subjects. So I think it's really encouraging to see that, whether it's writers, editors, cinematographers, our students who are girls have really gone out in the industry and made a mark. And I feel that is just a snapshot to let everyone know that the industry has really opened their arms to diversity, to inclusiveness of all genders, and making sure that the environment is safe and healthy for everyone. Women have always been extremely empathetic, compassionate, and I feel like women have this extra superpower of multitasking. So I feel like women are extremely important in any industry. I think that the kind of energy, the vibe, the talent, the emotional intelligence that a woman brings to any office or any workplace or any home is very different, and it's the success of an industry when it shows, or when you see a lot of women leaders coming up. So I feel the media and entertainment industry is no less than that. We need more and more women to become more active and not just hit the glass ceiling and go away. We need women to continue. We need women to actually break through those glass ceilings to make sure that they achieve goals that have never been achieved, so that there are so many younger girls who are aspiring to become something in the film and entertainment world, and they can actually aspire to be like them. So I feel there's definitely a need for more women. I feel already, if you look at the television industry, for example, I once walked into an NDTV news office, and I was surprised to see that 5% of the people working in the office were women. And so that is happening. The change is happening. There are radio stations where you see mostly women, production houses where there are so many women working now, and I think that is what is bringing about the change. You can see the kind of cinema we're making. You can see, I recently saw Panga made by Ashwini Iyer Tiwari, and you could see how it was such a beautiful collaboration between her husband Nitesh Tiwari and her to make this wonderful film, which is really empowering for women. But I looked at what may have gone on behind the scenes for a woman to come up with a film like that, so empathetic towards other women who are trying to get back to their careers. Any industry needs women at the helm, and the film industry or the media industry is no less. So I feel like more and more that as women become part of an organization or a film set, there will be more empathy, there will be more people who will be fostered or into more capable people within that environment, because women have this natural instinct of being very nurturing towards others. So I feel like women take people along with them, and I think that is extremely important to have on a film set, because there are so many young people who are working on film sets and don't really have any direction. And I feel that if there are more women on film sets, that could make a huge impact on the way our industry operates and the way the films actually turn out in the end. I feel that we've gone on a bit too much about women empowerment and gender equality, and I really feel like there should be a time very soon where we don't need these kind of seminars, we don't need these kind of topics to be discussed. We should reach a stage where everybody empathizes with one another and everybody understands that we are all equal, and we really need to make the world a more inclusive place, whether it's for people who are differently abled, or people who are from the LGBTQ community, or women. I think all of it. I feel like now our focus is changing to other topics because women are almost getting there, but men have a huge role to play in this. I feel men can really make their co-workers feel comfortable, give them an important role to play, especially those who are leaders. Let the woman in your team grow with the team, and really, if men just understood that this is not a competition between a man and a woman, but it's about who's the best, I think it'll be more healthier than it has been in the past. A lot of women face a lot of office politics. A lot of women feel that they hit the glass ceiling, and it is something by choice. It's something that you take a decision when you want to start a family or you want to have children. But I think if men can be supportive, and I from my own personal experience can say that, for me, the only reason I could get back to work after having my baby and within 2 or 3 months of having my baby was because of the men in my life. So, I've been fortunate enough to work with my father and my husband, who absolutely took care of the office. My husband took over my duties while I was away, and my father encouraged me to come back to work. I think that is something that is really important as well, because after having a child, it's very easy for us women to feel very attached, find excuses not to get back to work. You lose a little bit of your confidence as well, even if it's just 3 months. But I think you need somebody out there to say, no, you need to come back. And I think my dad did that for me. And at that point, I didn't like it, and I felt I deserved a longer break. But now I can't thank him enough. So now I do that to my co-workers who go on maternity breaks. I encourage them to come back sooner rather than later. Of course, looking at their comforts, but I feel that that is the push that everybody needs to come back to work. And of course, when we come back to work, we need the men in our lives or in our environment to be supportive. If there are situations where we struggle with children's school, and when children are unwell, and there are times we have to leave early or we have to come to work late, and at that point, if the men, our colleagues at work, can step in in, that is the kind of support we need. So I feel like men need to be more empathetic. Men need to appreciate women who are working with them a lot more, understand that they bring something else to the environment that they work in. And I think we're getting there. I think more and more companies are now appreciating that. More and more men are becoming really, really sensitive towards issues that women face. And one of the things that I really want to suggest, which I try very hard in my own office environment, is I feel that the work-life balance topic is only discussed with women. I feel very strongly that the work-life balance topic needs to be encouraged and initiated with men too. It's extremely important that if a woman gets 3 months or 6 months maternity leave, the man should also be able to claim that 6 months. And maybe the first 6 months, like in Finland, it's just been announced, the first 6 months the mother takes care of the baby when they need her the most, and then she goes back to work, and then the next 6 months are taken care by the father. I mean, it's something that, to think about, to initiate, to really encourage, because in today's day and age where both parents are working, it is extremely important for the mom and the dad to be a very integral part of their children's lives. If we are raising the citizens of tomorrow, yes, our careers are important, but if we have children, we must know our responsibility towards them, and that responsibility doesn't just stop at the mother. So I think that role sharing, I feel like as organizations, we can really help men understand that their role is also very important at home. And I'm right now just talking about children. There are some people who are single and they have elderly parents to take care of. I think that again shouldn't be the responsibility of the daughter or the daughter-in-law. I think that also goes. So I feel like while our sector is not as 9 to 5 as generally other industries are, and yes, I know there are timings are erratic, I know there are creative people involved, actors have dates, sometimes it's only a Sunday that a location is available, and so you have to give up on family time and do that. But I think if you try, it's possible. I read, as I was growing up, I always complained about my father working 24/7 and not giving us enough time, and at that point I read about Steven Spielberg, who used to, from the start, he did drop-offs and pickups for his children, and he worked only 9 to 5. So I think if Hollywood could do it way back 30 years back, I think it's time that us in the Indian film and entertainment industry can make that effort and really give a balanced kind of environment for our children, for our workplaces, for the people we work with. So I think men can play a huge role in this, and I would encourage organizations, whether they're led by women or men, to really inculcate this sense of inclusiveness and empathy for all the people who are working for the organization. Unfortunately, there are barriers. There are lots of problems that we still face as women in any industry, not just the entertainment industry. But if I have to speak specifically about the entertainment industry, there are barriers in terms of working environments. There are a lot of film shoots that happen, sets that are constructed, places where it's not easy for a woman who's pregnant or a woman with a small baby to go. Like I said though, there are ways of overcoming that. I think if everybody who's in leadership positions can take that stance, I feel there are ways for women to break these barriers. I think it's all up to us taking that stance, how important our careers are for us. And it takes a lot of courage, I know. But I think it is important that as young girls, you can go ahead, you can start by training first, going through proper education in the field. You will find the barriers then automatically get reduced to more than half, because what happens is that you meet people who have studied with you in the industry. You meet your people who are alma mater, and that's something I'm talking from real proof, real example, because at Whistling Woods we've seen that happen. We've seen how various alumni of ours are doing so well. We have known for them to accept Whistling Woods students who they have not even interacted with before more easily and incorporate them in their environment. So the first thing is to find a network or a place or an educational institute where you can really form those bonds of friendship, and where when you go out in the industry, that barrier doesn't exist. You will be accepted with open arms just because of the education you've received, because of the foundation that you have. So I think that is one way of overcoming that barrier. The second barrier, of course, is for slightly older women who are almost there, almost ready to become leaders, whether it's a CEO of a multiplex company or a producer of a film. I feel like you're almost there, but at the same time your family life has also progressed and you've gotten pregnant or you've had a child. They are difficult times. I have been through it myself, so I know that it's not easy to leave your child home when they're that small, or to bring them to work, especially if it's a film set that you're going to. But it's not impossible. I have seen so many women do it so beautifully and so gracefully that I think that it is possible. And I feel that children have grown up to be more independent, more socially aware because of the childhood that they've seen with their working mom along with them. So I think it's time that one of the biggest barriers women face just in general when it comes to entrepreneurship and taking leadership positions is not always from the external factors. It's also us internally. We put a lot of guilt on ourselves when it comes to balancing our work and our home. And I'm not saying you can't feel guilty. I have had moments where I've broken down at work because I've been wanting to be with my children, or being with my children and being really harrowed about a situation that's at work. But I think it's time that women start finding that balance and understanding that both these things are important to them, and not let that affect their well-being and their mental balance. So I think that if we ourselves decide that us being entrepreneurs, us being in leadership positions is actually eventually going to get to our children, and our children will aspire to be like us, they will be motivated and they will look at us as role models, I think then you will feel less guilty about breaking through that barrier. So definitely there are external areas that we need tackled, but I think the biggest one is within us. So if all women can decide that, yes, I'm at a point of my career where I'm getting this amazing leadership position, but there's a glass ceiling, break through that glass ceiling without any guilt. So we started Whistling Woods in 2006, and we started actually marketing for the courses way before, 2003, 2004, and we used to put up stalls at these education fairs, and at that point there were no film and creative institutes, so we were the only ones, and we used to see how parents and students reacted to our stall. We often had children who would look at us and start giggling and laughing, especially girls, because they'd be like, oh my God, do you want to be the next Madhuri Dixit? And they would start laughing about it. And then there were parents who would just drag, even if the child looked at our stall, they would be dragging them away from our stall. Things have changed a lot, even in terms of looking at film and media education as a mainstream education, as mainstream career. And we have a lot of people to thank for that. Of course, the industry, who's been so supportive about Whistling Woods, not just coming here and talking to the students on a regular basis, but hiring our students, making sure our students do well in the industry. So that is one big factor that has worked. Secondly, to our university partner, 4 years ago we tied up with TIS, and that tie-up really has helped elevate media and film education and creative education to a very formal, more mainstream area. And that for parents is really important, I understand, but it's a real bonus for children, because students now feel like they can convince their parents better, knowing that they have a formal degree from a really good, reputed one of India's best institutions. So all that adds to the fact that we have had a lot of changes in terms of the kind of student we get. And I'm so happy, because in 2006 when we started, there were very few girls, and I looked at the ratio and I felt like, why? We need to have more girls. We are a creative institute, and we definitely want a 50-50 ratio. So And what makes me happy is that over time that has been achieved. We almost, in some departments like fashion, there are 90% girls. SMC, the School of Media and Communication, sees a lot of girls, almost 60-70%. Filmmaking stays at about 50-50 or 40-60, but I think that still is a big change. And I'm really proud of all the girls. I think the production design first batch is 100% girls. So I feel these are areas that a girl would never want to get into 13 years ago or 14 years ago, and today they are all exploring these areas. And I feel like a lot of the credit goes to the team at Whistling Woods, the faculty at Whistling Woods, because without them, these students and these parents would not be able to get the comfort that they are putting their child into an educational institution which will take care of their children, which will make sure that they do well in the industry and stay safe, stay, have an organized kind of career vis-a-vis something that's chaotic and erratic. So I think that the faculty here, the staff here at Whistling Woods has really nurtured every student and mentored every student into becoming independent. And that in itself is a reflection of our admissions today, where so many girls apply, so many girls' parents from all over the world, not just India, send their girls to study at Whistling Woods. So definitely a huge change, and I'm extremely delighted about that change, because as a woman I feel like there must be, in every sector, there must be a good presence of women. Everything that starts, in terms of a change in society, starts in the classroom. Our educational environment, our teaching environment is what we take out. When we started Whistling Woods, one of the things was that we wanted to make sure that our students learnt best practices in class, but also were aware of what goes on in the industry, so that they were not too naive and not too protected from the real world. It was a nice balance of teaching them that this is the right thing to do, but also telling them that this is what you'll expect in the industry and how to tackle that situation. So, and the same goes for any classroom, whether it's business management college, or it's a medicine college, or somebody is teaching BMM, or any other course that is being taught in this country, I feel needs to change the way the classrooms are led. And one of the biggest things, and I've said this before, but I can't stress upon it enough, is inclusivity. If our teachers are inclusive, if our teachers teach our kids by example, not just by talk, to be inclusive, our children will go out there in the world and be inclusive. It is extremely important for us to not differentiate between somebody from a different caste, somebody from a different color, somebody who doesn't have certain skills, people with children with dyslexia, autism, or any kind of handicap, as they call it. I feel we need to be inclusive, and the same goes with gender. The same goes for men and women being treated the same. So I think that classroom is a very important place, from junior KG or nursery level. From play school level, that is where our children learn to be inclusive, and that continues into higher education. At Whistling Woods, it is very important for a film and creative institute to teach the students about gender sensitivity, because these are the future filmmakers, ad filmmakers, people who are going to go and do design and creative design and advertising. It's very important for them to know what to put in their films and what not. We had a few years back, we had a tie-up with a wonderful organization called Ladli. It's run by Population First, and Dr. A.L. Sharda does these workshops with various media companies. And since then, she's been coming here to Whistling Woods to do workshops with us as well. It's a wonderful idea of sensitizing the filmmakers, already existing filmmakers and to be filmmakers in terms of students, to gender equality, to show that there are certain things that you don't need to show in your ad because they're all stereotypes. You don't need to have an ad with a son and a daughter. You can have just a daughter, or you can have two daughters. You don't need to show every ad with a little boy running around and his name is Rahul and he's being called and you can have a daughter instead. So these were things, little things that they pointed out to the industry, and we've seen a huge change in our ads now because of this initiative. So we are very fortunate to have this tie-up with them, because our students get these gender sensitization workshops on a semester level, and plus of course our screenwriting faculty during their workshops. We have a lot of sessions here on campus about this. We show movies to them so that they understand that there are certain things that they don't need to just perpetuate through the media, amazing media of cinema. So those are the kind of things we do. Many young girls come to me and ask me about how do we get into the film industry or entertainment world. There are so many things, starting from when they are in school and they're really good at art or dance or singing, and just around 7th grade, around that time, everybody, including their teachers, their parents, their family, tells them, okay, now enough, that was your hobby, now you need to focus on your studies. I think that is the first barrier that comes in our lives. Yeah, the first time that we stop our children from being creative, from doing what they love, from the passion that they want to pursue. The moment we decide for them that this is not a mainstream career, this is not something that you can benefit from for the rest of your life, that's the moment that we create that barrier for them. So just as an example, dance. Some kids, boys and girls, can be very passionate about it, and they may or may not take it up as a career when they grow up. However, it's a skill that you learn just like any other sport, to stay fit, to be able to create an energy within you, so that even if you're working in an office, if dance remains your hobby or something you want to do for the rest of your life, it kind of keeps you going in a very positive direction. We hear so much about depression these days, and young children going through depression. I feel these passions are very important, whether it's football, basketball, dance, singing, photography, art, design. I feel that that barrier should not be kind of put in place at that 6th, 7th standard, where after that now you have to start studying. So this goes out to all the teachers, all the educators out there, where in schools itself, we stop making them mainstream subjects. I encourage, whenever I meet a principal or a school teacher who's leading the curriculum in any school, I encourage them to please try and do media literacy as one of the courses, to bring their students. If it's not possible to incorporate in the curriculum, bring your students to Whistling Woods. We'll do a workshop for them where they understand creativity, so that if they don't know, how will they pursue? I feel like it's really important that our education system becomes more open to letting children become more creative and really take forward that creativity that they have. So that's the first barrier that most young kids face, where they are not encouraged to pursue anything to do with creativity post a certain age. Then of course, the pressure from family and friends and parents, that what will you do if you join this industry? It's not stable, it's chaotic, it's not safe. These are all stereotypes that are linked to our industry, and maybe rightly so, because it is different for a person who doesn't belong to it. I've had so many parents who are, who come to me with a sincere request and say, we don't have anything to do with this film industry. We are doctors or teachers, and our child really wants to get into it. So can you give us some advice? And I feel for them, because I can understand for them it's such an alien place. But all I can say is that at Whistling Woods, we've graduated over 2,000 graduates, and I can count on my fingers the ones that came from a creative field. So most of them came from fields, from families that were not linked to the industry, and they have done fabulously well. They are doing so well, and now to see their parents come to us and thank us for what we did for them. So I feel like that barrier, don't let your child fight for what they want to do. I feel like at that point, at 18, when they really want to pursue this, let them, because there have been also a lot of students that we've had who've had to do medicine or engineering and spend those 3 or 5 years of their lives doing something else and then come back to become filmmakers. Of course, do your research, make sure the child is serious, make sure they're ready for hard work. This industry is a lot of hard work. If there are children who believe that it's just glamour, then this place is not for you. I tell all our students who come here for orientation that you have 1 week to see how this goes. If you're not willing to put in the hard work, then this is not the industry for you. It is very glamorous to look at. It's lovely to see the stars on stage, but it is hours and hours of patience, of sitting down patiently for makeup, for dress, then standing on a hot set with lights facing you, saying and remembering the same lines again and again, and that's just the actors. Then there are lightmen and then cinematographers and editors, and who all have their own set of frustrations. And I always believe that it's only people who are really passionate about this field who make it, because if you're not, you just won't be able to do it. So I feel like one of the barriers is definitely the stereotypes attached to the industry. But what I would like to say is that definitely we've come a long way. Definitely there's a lot that has changed in the industry. There's a lot of change in the way things are happening now. People are understanding the value of life-work balance. But at the same time, if your child joins, or if you join this industry and you love doing what you do, you will not even realize you worked a 24-hour shift. It's that fun. So I think if you're having fun while you're working, you don't feel tired, you don't feel stressed. It's an amazing feeling. So that I think is something that those are the barriers that we face, and we must try and explore and try and not let those barriers come in our way if we are really serious about this. As a last piece of advice, I would like to recommend all women who are looking to get into this industry as well as any career and make a career for themselves to read an amazing book by Sheryl Sandberg called, she's the CEO of Facebook, called Lean In. It is such an aspiring book for all women, I feel. And one of the things that she says in the book, which I'm going to paraphrase a little, is that it's very important for us women to be good leaders. And good leadership doesn't just mean bossing people around or just leading the way. It also means making people independent in your absence. So I feel like there's a huge opportunity for us women to be able to do that, to foster the next generation of women and men into really, really good leaders of tomorrow. So my last piece of advice is that, just go for it. It's really up to you, to how you handle your career, how you take your life forward. And if you love what you're doing, you will not feel any barriers in your way. You will actually crush them all. Thank you.